2, 3.
Hello, my name is Nadav Lapid, and I'm the director and the screenwriter of the film Policeman.
Which is having its New York and certainly U.S. premiere tonight. At the New York, it's the closing film for the New York Film Festival.
Exactly.
And I saw it about a week ago at the press screening.
Yeah.
Policeman is a very violent film. And usually when we have violent films from the Middle East, it's always about the Arab-Israeli clash. This film is not about, on the surface, Palestine. It's not about Arab. It's not about Egypt. It's about Israel and Israeli society. In the same way that many of the new Israeli filmmakers, the younger generation, they really have made films about Israel today. And if I'm going to sort of tell how I saw it, and you will correct me if I have misrepresented your film.
Okay.
Israel has no Baader Meinhof gang. Israel has no Red Guard. Israel has never had sort of a home-based, extreme radical group that I'm aware of. Is that true?
It's completely true.
And Sabras are brought up to be strong and to put the security of the country above everything else, above sort of moral and ethical values, the security of Israel.
Exactly.
And we've seen those Sabras in the film,
exactly.
In Hollywood films, Israeli films. And this film starts off with sort of what we in the United States call the blue line relationship among the police, that kind of buddy system, that kind of honor system that exists. I support you, you support me.
Yeah.
We do no wrong. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
And talk a little bit about the mentality because Israel is a very highly secure society. The security people everywhere for good reasons. So you talk a little bit about how you live your daily life with the police or the security cameras or the plainclothesmen always present.
I think that in a way, in Israel, I think, in the first part of my film that deals with this policeman, I wanted to deal with several things, but also with manhood. And I think that, manhood is, of course, an international thing. I think each man, maybe also woman in a way, deals with manhood. But in Israel, manhood passes by the battlefield. You cannot detach questions dealing with manhood and fighting for your country, fighting for your state, the battlefield. For example, myself, when I was 18 years old, I was educated in a family, left-wing family, intellectual, artistic, completely conscious of what I saw and my family saw as the manipulation made by the country, etc., etc. And at the same time, at the age of 18 years old, my biggest dream was to be a hero an Israeli hero, and an Israeli hero fights for his country.
That's mandatory. Male and female at 18, except for the Orthodox, must do military service.
Completely.
Left wing, right wing, whatever.
Completely. Looking backward, for me, it's kind of astonishing how, really, on one hand, I could have done very long and well-built speeches explaining how this security situation is used by the state, etc., etc., etc. And at the same hand, emotionally, my biggest dream was to go to war. I was dreaming about this war, and when I look at it, it reminds me a little bit. There's this permanent person in Western, the young cowboy, who dreams about fighting and killing someone because this how he will be transformed to a man. So I think at the age of 18 years old, I was exactly this cowboy as a lot of other people. So I wanted to deal with manhood, and in Israel, manhood gets another twist, the militant twist, this twist of securing your state, securing your country, and it also becomes a kind of obsession. I mean, the obsession of the permanent enemy. There is always an enemy. There is always a permanent enemy. Always everything is dangerous. Dangerous is all over. You can never be relaxed. And I think that these policemen in my film, guys in their 30s, that on the one hand deal with whatever life contains, family, wife, house, mortgage, going to supermarket, and on the other hand eliminate on a daily basis, almost on a daily basis, those enemies of the state. In a way, they are the Israeli ideal, the Israeli hero, the Israeli like we dreamed them. They are the pride of the state. So when you speak about a violent film, my film tries to deal with what I see as Israeli soul, with the DNA of the Israeli mind, soul and heart. And when you speak about a state where these men are the heroes, are in a way the best thing the country can offer, can propose, clearly the film must deal with violence. Violence is not only there, violence is in a way became a superior value.
What's interesting is that we're seeing on the screen what we've been reading about in the newspapers over the last couple of years. That is, that the sort of Zionist dream state has become the capital state, and there's a class difference among Israelis. And there are very rich people. Some of them had come from North America with some money, and some made a lot of money. And there now are very poor people, Israelis, not the Arab Israelis, but the Israelis. And we read and we see on CNN, different things happening among youth, and among the middle class also, and very much so around the world we're seeing this phenomenon right now. We haven't seen that on the screen before. And in your film, you have I'm going to call it the Sabra mentality, but you can correct me if that's not the correct, that kind of masculinity, God, and let's take God out of it, country, security above everything.
Yeah.
That also affects the women.
Yeah.
Because the military is not gendered, it's men and women, the same kind of value, masculine toughness, and supporting each other. So you open your film with these 4 or 5 cops, and we see the ordinariness of their life, how they support each other, who's in trouble and who's not, how they cover, very sort of universal police mentality. Then we meet 4 young people, who have not been in the military yet. So they're not even 18, is that correct?
They are 18, 19, 20. They escaped the Israeli. However, they weren't. It seems that they didn't pass this Israeli stage of going to the army.
So you could get out if you were mentally defective, if you were like a bad kid, or
exactly.
If you were not delinquent.
They didn't pass the Israeli indoctrination.
Okay. So I meet them, and they seem to be middle class. Are any of them children of the very rich?
I think they are like bourgeois, and even maybe a little bit more. There is this manifesto scene in the house of the parents of the main character. They're a young woman, and I mean, you can see that it's quite luxury place, very high building. Outside is Tel Aviv. The cars are passing, but the windows are closed, and it seems like that she has quite a comfortable life.
And these 4 young people declare war, essentially, on their own government.
Yeah.
Not the government, but the sort of class society that exists and it's not based in Zionism, it's not based in old sort of thing. It's about, I don't think the word capital is ever used in the film, but it is an attack upon capitalism which has not served the Israeli dream properly. Yes?
Completely. I think I have a lot of things to say about
Yes,
this.
please.
Well, like class differences, people who are exploited, it exists as we know all over the world, and all over the world we can see that people start to struggle against, and of course it hasn't begun today. As I spoke about manhood also regarding this, I think that in Israel there's a kind of strange twist. You mentioned before, wisely, the fact that in Israel we never had this Badr Meinhof, Red Brigade, weather underground, war from within, struggle from within. In Israel there's a kind of, it's first of all it's the state of Jews. We are all brothers, we are all together. There's a kind of alliance, there's a kind of unity, and we are all the time under an existential menace. The enemy is waiting for us on the frontiers. The enemy is outside. I think that this is exactly the mentality that prevent, in a very, very efficient way, the possibility of this struggle from within, of the protest. Because it's not time for. How can you complain about your salary when you're under the permanent menace of war and destruction, etc.? Second of all, we are all brothers. It's a country that has a kind of actually it's a family. It's a kind of wide family, and of course, with the time, this argument, this mentality became a kind of very manipulative way under which few exploited the others, preventing them from even fighting against it under this idea that, hey, you should go to the army, you should defend your country, the war is all over. So I think, in a way, declaring when Jews in Israel, when Jews decide to struggle against other Jews, in a way they declare war against the basic nature of the country, against the basic nature of the basic principles of the Israeli existence.
Mm-hmm.
It's not by accident that in the first sequence the policemen look at this valley in the desert and they say, this is the most beautiful country in the world, which is the Israeli thing to say.
Mm-hmm.
We believe that we live in the most beautiful country in the world, that we are the chosen people, And the first thing that these young radicals are doing is that when they are training, they are shooting on a tree in the middle of the desert. And tree in the middle of the desert, in a way, it's the Israeli image. We have founded a paradise in the middle of the desert. And shooting on a tree... We created a paradise in the middle of the desert. And shooting on this tree in the middle of the desert is shooting on the main body of this Israeli society, because I think that in a way, struggling within Israel, it's not only a matter of class struggle, it's also declaring whatever we've been told was wrong. In a way, you should fight against your state, against your country, and I think that that's why even in the manifest, this manifest that they're reading, it's very important them, almost like child, but to curse the country. They said we are the sons and daughter of the ugly Israel. Like in Israel, we always did this kind of expression, the beautiful Israel. Mm-hmm. So it's really declaring war against the Israeli nature.
But it seems to be no religious aspect in your film. the Orthodox community, which has a lot of power and is privileged in ways that the normal Israeli is not a part of your film. These are secular children. You're really talking about a secular Israel,
Yeah.
yes?
Yeah, completely.
Why did you make that choice?
Listen, I think that in the existence of the very the extreme Orthodox religious men in Israel, there is something subversive. Basically, there's something subversive because really the extremists, they are anti-Zionists. They don't recognize the Israeli government. They don't sing the national hymn, etc. However, it's for me, it's a kind of extremism that does not affect the myth of the Israeli state and of the Israeli character. I wanted to describe a kind of battle that deals with the main corpse of the Israeli myth and the Israeli character, the Israeli nature. Mm-hmm. I mean, if these young radicals would have succeeded, for me it would have not only be a political step inside Israel, it would have been the beginning, but not only the beginning, of a complete break of this Israeli myth, because a part of Israeli myth is the unity from inside and war from outside.
Okay, let's just for the people that have not seen your film, the stories of 4 young Israelis, youth, young people who decide to kidnap and hold for ransom billionaires, Israeli billionaires, and they have all the markings of radical youth and all the politics of radical youth and all the commitment.
Yeah.
And the scenario is that those police that we met in the beginning are the police that will come in and try to capture them. So that's the background. So it's about rich people, and it's coming from the middle class, the upper bourgeoisie. These children are the children of the upper bourgeoisie. They're not the poor people.
No.
Now let's also place it right contemporary, because your film is so contemporary. Peace now has lost. I mean, we don't hear anymore of the Peace Now movement. The government has taken a more extreme right-wing turn. It seems that the United States, whatever they do, the United States will make some noise, but allow and continue to support them. There's no criticism. And the recent demonstrations within Israel were not about Arab-Israeli politics. They were about the economic situation in Israel. So your film is very topical. It's also universal with all the the Wall Street events all over the world today. We're talking where they're happening all over the world, especially. So it's a very topical moment. And yet it seems from here, from what we learned from our dominant media, that the government is in control of the policies of Israel, and that these bad children are really disrupting the new Israeli dream, which is like the American dream, which is like the capital dream, which is make as much money as you possibly can and not worry about. This is very different from the early Zionist communal dream. Yes?
Yes, absolutely. I think that the pervert thing in Israeli society is that, I mean, not only, of course, like in America, this beautiful dream, at the end for some it's a dream, for others it becomes nightmare, but the pervert thing in Israeli society is that this dream is still hidden beneath patriotic slogans, patriotic ideology. And as I said, the way to prevent from those who live and feel the failure of this dream to oppose it is by using this fake national cohesion. And you saw it even lately. I heard a lot of politicians talking about this protest that exists in Israel, saying, hey, come on. When Iran is building an atomic bomb, don't be spoiled. It's not the time to talk about nonsenses. When Palestinians are going to declare a state, come on, it's not the time. Let's not forget. At the end, we are all together. And at the same time, I heard a minister in the government say, listen, maybe we should give these protesters something, because in short time we'll need them in the battlefield. They should fight with devotion for Israel. So let's throw a bone to their direction.
So patriotism, which is always the tool of the right in any country, is stirred up when the reality is it's a very critical moment for Israel, internally and externally. And your generation of young artists somehow have rejected the politics of the grandfathers. And I say the grandfathers because I mean the politics on both sides, because young Palestinians, you'll find the same way of trying to figure out, is it possible for you and for the Palestinian young people to live together in this part of the world? The grandfathers' politics have said no on both sides, and so how do you keep your sanity and keep, and if I'm asking a question that's too delicate, you will just not answer it, okay? But I just wonder, because I've seen a number of the artistic expressions of, they're Israelis. I mean, they're not saying we're not Israelis, they're Israelis, the character is Israeli, but there's this terrible moment with overhanging is that this cannot go on with the politics of the grandfathers. How do you get up in the morning and have any hope?
I think that, well, this is really something very personal. It's not really a matter of, well, there are moments when it's really desperate to live in Israel and still remember hopes of the 90s after signed there was this signature of Oslo agreement, that there was a kind of euphorian sentiments that since then, it's a big disappointment. And then at the same time, I think, I was born in Tel Aviv. My connection to Israel is so automatic. It's not even to Israel. It's like your connection to, I don't know, you were born in New York, I don't know where. But I'm connected to my street, to the street in the corner. The beach is not far away. I'm connected to Jaffa as well, where what we call Israeli Arabs, and maybe they call themselves Palestinians, live. This is an automatic. I'm connected to the language. I'm also a novelist, so I'm really highly connected to the language.
And you're connected to your parents' politics,
I'm connected to my parents' politics, but I really, and I'll speak personally, I tried to live abroad. There was a moment in my life when I said, this is impossible. I decided.
You didn't go to Berlin?
I decided to leave Israel. I went to Paris. I passed 2.5 years in Paris. I never felt so Israeli as in Paris. Maybe this was the first time in my life that I felt Israeli. Till there, I was convinced that I'm a kind of Parisian French that by accident was born in the Middle East. Then I discovered that I'm completely not. And it's really not a matter of at this moment, it's not a matter of being desperate or hoping. I mean, you try to live in a sincere way in the only place where I can imagine myself living, at least at this stage of my life. And for me, the important thing is sincere. I think that also in my film, it's first of all tearing a lot of masks that englobe the Israeli existence and the Israeli myth. And for me, I think the worst thing today for me, also when you spoke about violence, is that, you've seen a lot, people in Israel do a lot of political films, political arts. I think that for me the main problem is that quite often they distinguish between the situation in Israel and the Israeli soul or the Israeli characters. For example, you see a lot of films where the situation is bad, the situation is problematic, and the Israelis are normal people living in a crazy country. For me, this is completely hallucinated, because no doubt for me that Israeli soul is a reflection of the Israeli situation. The Israeli situation is a reflection of the Israeli soul. And if people ask themselves why it's so hard to bring about a solution, it's because we first of all need to pass by a kind of collective psychological treatment, by a collective psychological analysis. And in order to bring about analysis, we should talk about the problems. So in this film, I think I'm trying to talk also about this problem.
There's two questions I'm going to ask you. One is about the relationship between the father and the son. One of the four young people, father apparently had been a poet and a radical, and 20 years ago, and nothing changed.
Mm-hmm.
And when his son tells him, I think his son goes to say goodbye to his father. I think that's what happens.
Yeah.
And the father joins him. There's something very moving about that, and very sad at the same time. Could you talk a little bit why it's in the film?
Yeah, well, I think the main 2 points. First of all, as I said, Israel is a kind of family calling itself state, but actually it's a kind of wide family, and everything in Israel passes by the family. I think political debates pass by the family, political agreements pass by the family. That's why the family is I couldn't imagine making a film about Israeli soul or about the Israeli state without talking about families and putting inside families. And all over the film there are families. I mean, the policeman is going to become father. All the time he talks.
I just want to stop for that moment. The policeman becomes very human in the scene with his very pregnant wife, and he's sort of in the way that husbands treat their wives at that point, I imagine.
Yeah.
He's touching her very gently. He's being very gently, and it's a very moving moment of humanizing him.
Yeah.
And almost a setup for the rest of the film.
Yeah. I think this violent killer policeman is a nice person. This is the most horrible thing in a way. Basically, he's a nice person
with a job to do.
With a job to do, exactly, and with a kind of moral system, kind of.
But like in Egypt,
possible moral system.
But like in the Arab Spring, if I may, when the military had to stop doing their job at that moment. I mean, that's sort of one of the challenges in your film.
Exactly.
In talking to the security forces in Israel.
Exactly.
But let's go back for a moment to the father and son.
To the father and son. And so first, what I started to say that this, and also the daughter of the billionaire, she comes with him and she defends him. I mean, this family thing
That's my second question about the two women. So let's finish with the father and the son.
So family thing exists all over the film. Afterwards, I think that, I grew up in really in a left-wing family. As a 4 years old kid, my parents took me to a lot of demonstrations. I remember this is my first childhood memories. Some of my first childhood memories are big demonstrations. With the time passed by, these demonstrations almost ended. Israeli left wing is dying for years and agonizing for years in a quite pitiful agony. I think that this failure of the generation of our parents, of my parents, it's the consequence of their failure is the what we see all over Israel. I mean we live their failure. It's not maybe a question of blaming.
So this father sees his child taking it further, where I don't know if he would say failure, but he knows he didn't win. He didn't change things. It's part of adulthood.
Exactly. There's a moment when he says something like, "I've been writing." He reacts to their manifest, and he says, I've been writing things like this for years, and it won't help. Something like this. People here, I don't remember exactly the way.
But this is a very dangerous moment in the film, because what the film posits is that nothing else has worked. Now we're at this stage where this kind of radical violence against the state seems to be the only alternative because of the failure of the Peace Now and left-wing movement.
Yeah.
So it's a dangerous thing you're saying in the film.
Yeah, in Israel, there are several scandals around this film in Israel. One of them was when the censorship decided to censor it above 18 years old.
Your film or all films?
My film.
Okay.
You saw the film. The film does not contain.
There's no sex scenes. There's no
sex and explicit
so it's
violence.
Politics. It's politics.
Yeah, and that's what we argued, and there was a big scandal, and the Minister of Culture and Education also reacted, and at the end they were forced to change it to above 14 years old, the limitation, the age limitation. But they were interviewed saying that in these times in these radical times, we are afraid that young Israeli men are going to see this film and kidnap Israeli billionaires. So,
how does that make you feel?
I'm not. My film is not. My film ends with failure. So my film is not. I'm not trying to encourage anyone to kidnap any billionaire, etc., etc. At the same time,
wake up,
and even more than wake up. There's something very hypocrite in this. I wouldn't like to say empty slogans, but capitalist life is a form of violence towards those who do not profit from it, and there's something very hypocrite in this demand for polite struggle or something like this. I think that people have the right to oppose the violence committed against them. Whether it will be violently or not violently, violence is an ugly thing. The moment you start to play with guns, it ends almost always badly. At the same time, to say that my film doesn't call to pacifist, polite, I'm not Gandhi.
The other thing, we could talk about this for a very long time. My colleague is in the room. He has questions for you too. And my tape is going to run out shortly. So there's one other question. I would go on forever if my tape was on. You have two strong women. I mean, the four radical youth, the strongest one is a woman. It's the Bernadine Dorn of Israel, if I may, the frame of reference to the Weather Underground.
Yeah.
And the daughter, a part of this text, they're kidnapped at a bridal party.
Yeah.
You know, a great moment in any family's life, and this awful thing happens, and they do it consciously. The daughter is no shrinking violet. She's as much a macho woman as you could ever imagine.
Yeah.
And she's these two women are fearless. Talk about that.
Talk about it.
And the rich woman doesn't have one drop of sympathy or compassion for what the manifesto says.
Completely. I think that strangely I've never been asked about this women thing. I think that in this in this machoistic state named Israel, where as I said, manhood is an enormous question, issue, and thing that affects everyone, men and women. These women so enthusiastic for battle, for clash, for violence, are in a way the counterparty, but also the twin of these men who are so eager to fight. I mean,
is that a hardening of the human sensibility?
Is that a what? Sorry.
Hardening, a toughening. I mean, the feminine is not normal. The feminine will always defend her child, the cub.
Yeah.
Usually the feminine is seen as not tough and mean and feelingless.
Yeah, like, you know, there's this film, No Country for Old Men. So it's not country for delicate person.
But how does the artist develop in that?
It's not a place to be tender. I think you know, my mother, who also edited the film.
Your mother edited the film?
Yeah, my mother was a film editor. If you speak about families, parents, and
Did you have fights with her?
What?
Did you have?
From time to time.
Can you fight with your mother?
She has a nice, I think, sentence about Israel when she said that there are no survival in Israel. Like, we all share the same diseases and the same
There was a film at the film festival called Miss Bana, which is a Mexican film that ostensibly is about drug culture, but the filmmaker explains it's about the whole culture, which is where greed and all these values, what was traditional, has been destroyed, and that he says it has to be complete change, not just get rid of the drug dealers or whatever. And your film sort of presents it's either a complete change or it's going to eat itself.
Yeah, I agree completely. As I said, I think that the Israeli society needs immediate and urgent psychological treatment. Otherwise, I think.
Are you called a traitor to Israel for making a film like this, or subversive, or suspect, or anti-Semitic, or anti-Zionist?
You know, the films. I think this film evokes, and I must say, still now all over the world, it was on quite a lot of festivals, and very harsh reactions. There was the theatrical distribution in Israel is going to begin on the 20th October, so it didn't meet yet the wide public. The critics were very good. We've done some screenings, and in some of the screenings there were very harsh reactions, like I don't know, people are telling you that as a...
Were these aesthetic criticisms or political criticisms?
I think that mostly, I think that in the film aesthetics and politics are going in a way together. I hope that form and content are uniting there, but people are reacting to the result, and the result for them is I think for a lot of them the result is really blessing, is really harming, exactly because it doesn't speak about the Israeli situation. It speaks about the Israeli soul. And
let us stop there because my tape is